Today in our 2017 Chevrolet Silverado 1500, we're going to take a look at and also show you how to install the BAKflip G2 hard tonneau cover. This folding aluminum cover has a part number of BAK 26122. Now, the G2 line of covers are an excellent solution for many different needs. Whether you're trying to secure tools or maybe like secure a fifth wheel hitch or something like that in the back of your truck, or just keep items you might have in there protected from the elements, whether they're outdoor gear, maybe clothes on a trip, something like that, can really be handy in helping protect all those items or secure those items from any outside sources. Now, the cover is going to offer an inside the bed rail fit, so we've got the aluminum rust-proof rails. We're going to clamp those directly inside the rails of our truck. We'll tell you exactly how far those stick in once we open the cover. But with that system, we have a really aerodynamic look. It only comes up over the top of the rails of the truck by about 3/8 of an inch. You can see it's really sleek and smooth. This is going to help to give us better aerodynamics. The wind's not going to be buffeting in the bed of the truck as much. That can even save you some money at the pump. Now, holding our cover fully open is where our prop rods come in. We're going to rotate these up. I'm going to slide this up, bring them down over the rod, and then tighten that screw. Once you have that done on both sides, you're ready to head right on down the highway. Now, here's what I feel is a really big advantage to the G2 style of cover. This hard folding cover is going to give you the benefits of the hard old fiberglass kind of shell covers, but you don't have to worry about completely removing them from the truck whenever you need full bed access. Except for about 7.5 inches here in the front, you're going to have full access to your bed for even the tallest loads to be able to get them in here and get them hauled safely. To go along with the seals that we have all the way around our cover and on our rails, in case anything were to seep through, you can see the drain tubes right here. These connect to a spout on the very front edge of the rail, and any moisture that might happen to bypass our cover should get caught in that rail and travel out of the tubes out of our vehicle. Now, whenever you're ready to fold your cover back down, you just want to loosen that set screw, move that up, and bring our rod back into the stored position. At that point, it's just a one-person job. Get this rotated down, and each section is going to lock in place as we go. So if we want our cover in this position, just have to take our buckles, remove them, and bring them up to the buckles that you'll be installing on the front edge of the cover. A little bit of pressure downward, and then just pull it to tension it. That'll keep this from rotating backwards as you travel down the road. Now, to continue unfolding, you just want to undo your buckle. It's going to go right back into that keeper, and we'll continue to unfold it. Now, an important thing to remember is when you close the cover, you want your tailgate to be up. This will avoid any damage, maybe the tailgate making contact with this seal and causing it to wrap under. Now, with a locking tailgate, the G2 covers are also going to give you a lot of security to protect the items that you have in the back. We've got the hard cover. Not a lot of people are going to mess with that. Then it's not until you open the tailgate itself that you can actually gain access to the release cables, which are located on both sides on every panel. You'll see those you're just going to pull down. We can just rotate our cover up. It's going to lock in every position. So in the second position, again, pull your cable, and you can continue all the way to the front of the cover. Now, this cover is not one of the more flimsy, chintzy covers that you feel either. This is going to have a 1/2 inch thick panel. We're going to have 3 layers of design. We've got the heavy-duty aluminum on the bottom here. This has a coating on it that helps prevent from the UV rays and fading and things like that. In the middle, we're going to have our foam insulation core. Now, our top also has that same aluminum protection. It has that protective coating that's going to be over it, protects against all the UV rays and things like that. So regardless of whether we have it open all the time or closed like this, we're going to get that same protection. It'll make it look nice for years to come. Now, to keep everything nice and secure as we travel down the road, each of our panels is going to have the white tab. It's going to stick in underneath that bed rail. So we'll have one set of these on each panel on the back side to help secure our cover down to the rails. One thing you're definitely going to want to keep in mind, when you do have the cover fully stowed, like we have it now, you're blocking the view out of your rear glass. Now, the covers will also come with foam D-pads. These are designed to put right on the cover where it might make contact with your vehicle to avoid any damage. Now, since the clamps are going to secure the rails to the side of the truck, and then our cover gets secured to those, we're not going to have to worry about any drilling or modifications at all on the exterior of our vehicle here. In some applications, depending on your model, like here we've drilled a small hole through an already existing plastic plug. Most truck beds are going to have something like that to use. Very rarely will you actually have to drill through any of the metal. Now, since the rails for the cover are inside the bed rails of the truck, they are going to take up a little bit of space. From the edge of the truck bed to the outside of the rail, we're looking at about 1 3/8 inches on each side. Now, the heavy-duty construction of the cover will allow you to put up to 300 pounds on top, evenly spaced. Certainly aren't going to want to park any four-wheelers or anything like that on it, but just for simple transport of some items here or there, it's not going to be an issue. Now, to prepare our cover before we get it put on the truck, we need to put our buckles on. You can see the pre-drill holes here on the front. This is going to be the short panel. That's the very front of the cover. So we want to place that buckle down over those holes. You can see we've got some almost like nut inserts, kind of like a Chicago screw. We're going to slide that in from the bottom. You can see there's a little bit of aluminum shaving in there. You want to get that out. You can kind of see it inside of our hole there. Once we place our buckle over, we'll take one of the machine screws. It's got a Phillips head to it. We want to place that in, line it up with that insert, and we'll just get it started for now. These should thread together very easily. You shouldn't have any issues. If you do, it's probably cross-threaded. You want to start again. Do the same thing for the other hole in our buckle. Then we'll want to tighten both of those down so we compress the gasket underneath. Now we'll do that same thing on the other side of our cover. Next, we've got our bulkhead seal that'll need to go in place. Now this is going to be for applications with a painted bulkhead here or for a spray-in bed liner bulkhead. If you have a drop-in bed liner, you're really not going to have to worry about it. But definitely clean off the surface really well. Use some rubbing alcohol or adhesive promoter, whatever you've got, and clean off the area all the way across. When you'll pull the white portion off, that'll expose our adhesive. We're going to start to work that in all the way across. You'll have a little bit of excess there, so you'll want to trim that off. And give it one last push there just to make sure it's stuck on really well. Now with our tailgate closed, we're going to get our rails put into position. We've got one for the driver, one for the passenger side. They're pretty easy to identify. You can see the silver portion here. Our cover is going to fit in there, and that allows for our adjustment forward and back. This should be towards the front, and we want that to be towards the inside. So we're going to lay this edge right here that has the weather strip on it right down on top of the bed rail. We want to ensure that our tailgate's closed during this process, and we want to slide our rail forward so it's snug up against the bulkhead here. Now with either an extra set of hands or if you've got some spring clamps handy, you want to hold your rail in position while we get the clamps in place. So you're just going to use them. They don't really have to be holding on that tightly or anything. It's just more to keep it up on top of the rail. Now we'll get our first clamp in position. We're going to do this as close to the front of the bed as we can. You can see one side of the clamp has teeth, the other one has grooves in it. You'll see as we slide that in, those teeth engage those grooves. We want those to be up as high as possible. We want our clamp to be as far forward as possible. And then we'll just hand tighten our bolt. Now we'll use a 9/16 inch socket. We just want to gently tighten our clamp. It doesn't take a lot of pressure, and be sure while you tighten it, you're pressing downward on your rail. Now depending on the bed length, this is where it'll change a little bit on how you're going to set up your second clamp. If you have a 6-foot bed or a short bed, you're just going to have one clamp. You want that as close as possible to the middle. Since we have the longer bed configuration here, what we'll do is space number 2 and number 3 out evenly between the bed, and then our last one's going to be all the way back as close as possible to the tailgate. All right, that'll take care of our driver's side. Now we're just going to do that exact same thing for the passenger side. Now we're going to install our drain hoses just through the bed of the truck at this point. It's a lot easier before you put that tonneau cover on. So we're going to be using these plastic caps. We've got one on each side, little dot right in the middle. We're going to use a 7/8" hole saw. Now be careful when you're drilling because the cab of the truck is right up here. It goes pretty much straight down. You don't want to have your drill hammer into the back of that, so just take your time. You see your hand will be right back there. I'm going to push our hose through and I'm going to direct it downward. You can see our drain tube right here, comes out of the bottom of the rail. Just want to push that right up on there. And we'll do the same thing for our passenger side. Now we'll get our supports put in place. These are designed to clip right on the balls that we see on each rail here. So we're going to put it in that hole and then use some pressure to clip it on. We'll bring that back and we can put it in its keeper. And when we fold the cover up, this is what we're going to use to support it. You see that'll support it while we're heading down the road. Then we'll head back over to the passenger side and get that one taken care of. Now with the help of an extra set of hands, we'll get our cover put up in position. Now we want the smallest panel with the buckles to be towards the front. When we set that down, we'll be right over top of the silver part where we're going to attach it. Now we want this edge to come up in front of our bulk seal, so we want to slide it forward. Now as we tighten down the bolts that are secure it here, we're going to compress that seal. It's going to help with that water resistance. Now we've got our flat top bolt we're going to place through. You can see that rubber washer. That's important to keep moisture out. We place that down through. Now when we get to the bottom side, we've got another rubber washer. We've got a flat washer and a lock washer we're going to put up on. Then you see we've got a kind of a thumb knob we'll put on there that'll allow us to tighten everything down. Now these will be hard for you to see up in there, but that's what we'll do on the bottom side underneath that aluminum bracket. Now once we've squared up the front edge here where it looks pretty even, we're going to just slowly roll it out. And we can check the back edge and make sure it's square. Now we'll make sure we've got good overlap here on the gasket and our tailgate. You can see their tailgate's about in this area, so we've got a good overlap there. Now you'll notice our white keeper is well inside of this edge. Basically we want to make sure that the gap we have here is the same on both sides. Of course that's going to mean that our cover is square. Now once we've confirmed that on both sides, I'm going to take our cover and roll it up. It's important to do this without moving it. Now like we talked about before, we got our rubber washer, our flat washer, our lock washer, and our nut to put on. Now you'll feel it come down to a stop. Once it stops moving down, you want to tighten it enough to crush that lock washer. That'll hold everything in place. So we'll do the same thing for our passenger side. Now the last thing we're going to complete is to get our D bumpers put on. Now these we want to put on this leading edge where it makes contact with the truck. In this case, like what we have here, we're only going to need one. The taillight sticks out further than anywhere else, so that's where it wants to make contact. So use that as our center point. We're going to put it right in there. So use some rubbing alcohol, clean that off really well. And we'll pull the cover off that adhesive and get it put in place. Now when we have our cover fully open, you can see that's going to rest right up against there and prevent any kind of damage from occurring. I'm going to check our spacing, make sure that stayed the same on both sides. Close our tailgate and allow that to come on down. Now the first few times you might want to just make sure that the seal goes down and rests against the tailgate flat all the way across. After that you're usually in good shape. So with everything working properly, that's going to complete our installation of the BAKflip G2 hard tonneau cover.
Thanks for watching. Click the link in our description below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com and leave a comment if you have any questions.